In this anime, everyone gets to be the protagonist. Durarara is an absolute gem of the 2010s. This show was massive, or so I hear. Somehow I never actually watched it until very recently. But oh my, was it a doozy. You know, typically when you're watching an anime, you pretty much always get a stock standard linear narrative, which is not a bad thing by any means. It's how most stories are written, but I am a sucker for content that plays around with its form and structure. When it comes to anime, stories that divulge from this are far and few between, which makes sense. The only immediate examples that come to the top of my head are Bacano and, well, Durarara, which just so happen to be written by the same guy, and exist within the same universe. Go figure. The best way to think of Durarara is Pulp Fiction on crack, the anime. Similarly to Tarantino's film, Durarara follows a number of protagonists, and we watch as their lives intertwine. But here's the kicker. Whilst Pulp Fiction has 4 different storylines they focus on, Durarara pretty much has a separate subplot for each and every fucking character of note. There are 15 of them introduced in the first opening alone. Yeah, 15 characters. It's a lot, but don't worry. By the 4th and final opening, 32 unique characters of note are pointed out, and they make sure you fucking know they're important in this Degrassi-looking ass anime opening. Durarara is also kinda like high stakes Degrassi if you really think about it. If I'm being totally honest, Durarara, little bit of a clusterfuck of an anime, but it's fun. Really, really fun. There is something for everyone in this series. High school drama, we got it. Gang Wars the anime, yes sir. Living urban legends, you betcha. Underground crime syndicates, bikies, coppers, yakuza, serial killers, the Russian mafia, incest, romance, weebs, actors and idols. There are a lot of different threads in this anime that feel like they have no right being tied to one another, but Narita genuinely makes it work. For the most part, all of these separate subplots have lasting and/or significant impacts on the centermost couple of arcs. Thanks to this, the phenomenal character writing, and consistent theming. Even when fleshing out real minor characters, you never really feel that it takes away from the core cast, which helps things come together a whole lot nicer. Furthermore, all the different storylines within Durarara take a different approach to the theme of connections, whether that be the hidden web that interconnects us all, the impacts that one can have in another's life without realizing, or the value of relationships and the lengths one will go to in order to preserve theirs. This whole shebang all takes place within a single entertainment and commercial district of Tokyo, Ikebukuro. It's a pretty fucking sketchy place, filled with plenty of even sketchier people. Case in point. Like I said, Durarara ain't a traditional narrative, it's a story told through its characters. We jump around from protagonist to protagonist, making our way through different arcs, and constantly seeing things unfold from different perspectives. However, if you strip things down to its bare bones, I'd say there are 6 core characters. Izaya Orihara is one of these. Izaya is the human embodiment of the hidden web that interconnects us all. But what's more is that he's an allegory for us. As the audience, since we're watching this shit through a screen from the outside, we can actually observe these hidden connections. However, being a successful underground information broker himself, Izaya has a seemingly endless supply of knowledge that emulates this same vantage point and core concept. His whole thing is that he's kind of a twisted cunt that just really likes people, as in he gets off to seeing what makes humans tick, which, once again, reflects us. I mean, we are literally getting a kick out of watching these guys suffer. And so, Izaya takes this theme and weaponizes it. He understands the value of connection and the lengths that people will go to, utilizing this in order to pull the strings from behind the scenes and plunge things into chaos. Whilst Izaya's actions and their eventual outcomes are very clearly calculated and deliberate, or so he claims, Shizuo is the perfect opposite, a complete dumbass. In a show with multiple inhuman characters and supernatural elements, who would have guessed that a human would be the most out of this world's character? Shizuo is a man so notorious, he's become an urban legend in of himself. You know how people can lift cars and shit in dire situations and all? Well, Shizuo is tapped into that potential permanently. Pair that with his anger management issues, and you've got yourself a monster of mass destruction. Shizuo is the one chess piece that Izaya claims to have no power over, his character foil. The one human he's not interested in. So of course, they loathe each other. In regards to the symbolism, Shizuo is basically a force of nature that embodies the great impacts one can have on another. He is simply someone so profound that his very existence may change the course of one's life. Multiple subplots deeply impacted by Shizuo, just going about his day, trying to hold down a job. And tackling the third big chunk of the theming, the value of connection and love, is Celty Sturluson. Even if you've never watched or heard about Durarara, you've no doubt seen pictures of this chick floating around the net. Celty showcases another core part of the show's identity, the supernatural elements. She's a Dullahan of Irish folklore, a headless horseman, in search of her lost head, which she's tracked down to Ikebukuro in Japan. Despite not having a head, Celty is both one of the most expressive and human characters in anime. Top tier waifu. She's holding down a great job working as an underground carrier, and she's in a super wholesome and healthy relationship with an underground surgeon, Shinra. Through Celty, Durarara explores some of the nuances of love and close relationships. As I said, despite being a Dullahan, Celty feels more human than a lot of the cast, and I think that's intentional, because it's the interaction she's had with all these people since coming to Japan that has turned her into such a sweet, compassionate girl boss. And just as she has changed through her connections, she's also been the catalyst to start changing others. Her appearance served as a defining moment in Mikado's life during the first episode. What was just a regular part of her day impacted his deeply. Speaking of which, 'tis an anime, and like I said, high stakes Degrassi, so of course we have our obligatory high school students. The remaining half of our 6 core cast members attend Raira Academy in East Ikebukuro, these being Mikado, Kita, and Danri. Though there are another 6 highlighted characters that attend it, and some alumni. Thankfully, however, the stories of these students have fuck all to do with attending high school. Gang wars, baby! Mikado is the first protagonist we meet. He's some country bumpkin looking for some excitement in the big city. I know what you're thinking. He looks like a wimp. He looks like a Pibbles. And you wouldn't be wrong. But being out of depth in Ikebukuro with all these larger-than-life people around him solidified when he saw Celty, made something click in his mind. He doesn't want to be a Pibbles no more. His storyline is associated with the Dollars, a network of thousands of people living within Ikebukuro. They are a colorless gang, with no clear goal, obligations, rules, motivations, or leaders. The Dollars themselves represent the hidden connection that people share. Just ordinary people who have all been connected despite knowing nothing about each other and having no clear direction. Conversely, his best mate Kita is associated with the color gang known as the Yellow Scarves. In fact, he's their leader. You can say that's a spoiler, but he's blonde and knows all the bigwigs in town. It's not rocket science. He and his gang once again represent the impact one can have on others. Both the Yellow Scarves and their greatest rivals, the Blue Squares, a color gang started by middle school children. The impact that these kids had spiraled beyond their control, and it's clear that the experience left scars. So cut him some slack at the start of season 1. He has some choice words that would probably get him cancelled nowadays, but it's clearly a way to cope. Henri is the last of our core 6 and the third member of the high school trio. As a child, she witnessed some really traumatic shit which left her believing that she hadn't the right to love or even make genuine connections. Her storyline is associated with the Slasher, otherwise known as Saika. The Slasher is a serial killer in Ikebukuro that wields a possessed blade. Upon contact, this blade may take control of one's mind by forcing its love upon the victim. So another supernatural subplot. She's obviously tackling the themes of love and the values of connection. Henri, Kita, and Mikado go through their own storylines respectively, but a motive they all share is that they believe they are doing what they are for the sake of each other. Realistically, things could've, would've, and should've been resolved easier/faster if they simply talked to one another. But I guess it's in line with the themes. Above all else, they're trying to preserve their connections. Those are the big hitters of Durarara, the protagonists most vital to the central plots. However, as I've said, there are many more subplots for pretty much all the other named characters. For the most part, all of these small subplots are handled really well. There are no one-off characters, and each of them still hold true to the themes. Celti's partner Shinra, the underground surgeon subplot, is all about his relationship with Celti, heaps wholesome. Mika and Seiji are another relationship in Durarara, a bit twisted but functional. They showcase the dramatic extents one will go to for the one they love. Kadota and his squad of utter legends are a few of the well-known dollars. They symbolize the deep connection found amongst friends, found family. There are a couple people whose whole subplot surround the impact Shizuo's had on their lives, spanning the Russian mafia, yakuza, and more. The leader of a biker club who showcases true bromanship and masculinity. Incest sister, incest twins, the blue squares, and a plethora of others. All of them are great, and I'm honestly happy that we get to take the time to see all these other characters shine. However, there were a handful that I thought weren't the best. The previously mentioned incest twins. I think they're fun, especially Myru. Just look at this uwu psycho. These two are Izaya's little sisters, so you know they're a bit fucked in the head, which they are, but they do absolutely nothing worthy of note in the show. And then on the opposite spectrum, we have Kujiragi, who I believe does too much. She's introduced late into the series, but manages to instantly become one of the most important, which kinda sucks. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind her character, but she felt kind of shoehorned in, stealing the thunder and screen time from others. But the worst of the worst characters, someone so inconsequential, she doesn't have a name. She has a name, it's just that no one remembers it. This bitch. She has no more than like 5 minutes of screen time, and despite this, she is responsible for one of the biggest upsets in the entire show. And, unlike the others, she is just not fun or interesting at all. I guess it runs in line with the themes of people impacting us without us knowing. But fuck that, and fuck this bitch. But apart from her, everyone is pretty cool. Durarara is a gem of the 2010s. It is a roller coaster, and I haven't even gotten into anything about the various games and side series. It is a bit old, so the animation has a little bit of jank, but it's really not noticeable. Not unless you pause the screen. And there are some cut corners, but it's honestly fine. Though these chatline segments were really hard to follow. Also, its openings are great, especially the first, and the soundtrack, memorable. It has a lot going on, but it is definitely worth the watch. It is a solid 8 out of 10 on the Cody board. See ya!